Hello everyone, are you ready for another adventure? It's me, Woki, and I'm back with another Fake Grand Order video. And today, we're going to be talking about the upcoming GSSR that will be here for New Year's. That's going to be today's video. I hope you like it. If you do, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me whatever your plans around GSSR are going to be. What banner are you going to be summoning on? Which ones are you still undecided about? Whatever you want to talk about, feel free to leave a comment, because it does help out the channel a whole bunch. And I guess not as a warning, but as an explanation, this video is going to be an extremely long video. So the way I typically do GSSRs nowadays is that I do one big video where I go over all of the banners that go up with GSSR, which in this case will be 29 of them. Talking about every single one of them. And then later on, in this case, hopefully on Monday, I will release, yes, the next day, Monday, I will release a 15-minute video, as close to 15 minutes that I can, talking very quickly about the GSSR, and then I release a shorts version of the GSSR, and then if you want a 0-minute version of the GSSR, I put up a PNG that tells you what I feel you should do for GSSR. And yeah, I do that just about every GSSR video now, because the GSSR videos are always very long, because I try and talk about all of the banners available to them and give my opinions on them. But then some people said it would be really nice if I could just tell me the key moments here, just the key banners to look out for, which I can do. And I also do for the long videos, it's just that I also talk about the other ones. So that one will be 15 minutes long and will feature just that. And then the shorts version is an even shorter version of that one. That one just started as a joke, and now I just do it all the time. The last two are typically jokes, but the first two are usually very helpful. I try and make the last two as helpful as I can with how limited time I have of it. But that's the basic breakdown of these GSSR videos I do. So let's actually get into talking about the GSSR now. Okay, so the GSSR. Some things to know before we begin. It is a premium banner, so if you're free to play, you may as well not even be watching this video, because there's zero way for someone to be free to play and to summon on the GSSR, because it requires paid Saint Quartz. So if you're free to play, you feel free to leave the video. It hurts my channel, honestly, when you leave this early on in the video and you don't watch the rest of it. But I would prefer you not to be tempted to spend on something that you can't afford or you're not able to afford, whatever your situation may be. I don't care. If you want to fight the temptation and just look away, do it. And if you stick around, I thank you very much, but you're literally listening about something you can't summon on. Which makes me very appreciative of you, but, you know, just know that going forward. It costs 15 paid Saint Quartz. At the moment, there isn't a bundle for us. There is on JP, but for us, there isn't a bundle where you can buy exactly 15 paid Saint Quartz. Hopefully, I would actually really appreciate it if during the upcoming live stream that they have planned on the 31st, that's one of the things that they add in. Because it would be very nice to have just a button that says, click this and I'm good. But if you wanted to get it the cheapest way possible, this is the kind of packs you have to buy. It is the $11.99 pack, which is 12 Saint Quartz plus 6 bonus Saint Quartz. I know what you're thinking. Isn't that already 18 Saint Quartz and enough? The answer is no, because the bonus Saint Quartz are considered paid Saint Quartz. It's really weird. I hate the system that they have. It makes no sense to me. But basically, you're telling them, I'm buying 12 Saint Quartz, and then they're going, here's 6 for free. Even though I've never felt that. I've always felt like I was paying for 18. I wasn't paying for no damn 12 Saint Quartz, but whatever. And then that pack costs $11.99. I should also say USD, because that's how much it costs for me. And then the other pack is the 4+1, which is 4 Saint Quartz plus a bonus Saint Quartz. That costs $3.99. That should give you a total of $15.98. And then if you don't care about any of that, you can buy the pack that is $23.99, which comes with 25 Saint Quartz plus 16 bonus of them. So easy enough to do it. And yeah, like I said, if you can't afford it, then don't buy into this game's FOMO. Just don't deal with it. The fact that I just told you about the fact that that's the way they differentiate paid Saint Quartz, that you can pay for Saint Quartz and they don't consider them paid Saint Quartz, is an insanely dumb system, but whatever. I'm going to get off track if I keep talking about it. Other things that go about here, obviously it's random which one of them you can get from the respective pools. You can only pick one of the banners of the 29 of them. So it's not like you can summon on all 29 of them, because that would be insane. You can only summon on one of them. There's been exactly one time in the history of the game where you were able to summon on more than one GSSR of these types. That's also clearly not including the Destiny Order GSSR, which is another type of GSSR. And you get a Holy Grail as a bonus present for summoning as well. Some other things to know is that the brand new unit that releases at the same time as the GSSR, which will be Yamato Takeru, will not be included in these, and neither is Sodom's Beast Draco. None of the Beast units are ever added to one of these GSSRs. The reason that has been given by Nasu is that you apparently can only pick them on Destiny Order because they want you to feel like you're specifically chasing after them, and you can't get a beast randomly. Which is dumb because the selection of the GSSR featuring them would be you specifically going out of your way to pick them, but whatever. That's the way that they've logically that. I really hope for in the upcoming GSSR on JP they change that, but whatever. There'll be raid up craft essences from the New Year's summoning campaign, but they won't be on raid up. They'll just be in the pool, so you can have a potential to get them there. This round, the GSSRs are separated by gender, NP card type, and NP effects. So that means male, female, Buster Arts quick, and then single target AOE and supports. Some servants will appear in multiple banners due to their gender and also because being unknown, and also because of their NP type as well. Because some units have both arts and Buster to them, which is funny enough. And yeah, so that's the basic rundown for the GSSR this year, and now we can almost start talking about the banners themselves, but there is something I want to talk about a little bit beforehand. If you're watching this video, then likely you need a little bit of help actually picking one of these banners. That or you just like hearing me talk, whichever one it may be. But assuming that you need help picking a banner, you're wondering, how should I go about it? Over the years that I've done GSSR and I've talked to other people about GSSR, these are the kind of basic ways that I've seen people kind of go for it. There are people who will always go for the meta-defining unit, and they will take the biggest risks, meaning that they don't care about any of the other units on the banner. They just want that one specific unit because they're like, no, you don't understand. If I need Castoria in my team, it's crazy that I've missed them. I'm going for Castoria now. That's what I'm going to use my 15 Pain Sage Quartz for, and they go for it that way. Another way of doing it is to go for your absolute fave, no questions asked. This is your best chance of potentially getting something. Like, for example, if you were a big fan of Kama, I'm going to go for Kama. I'm going to go for them in this banner that features them. It's a 25% chance, and if I fail, it's a 75% I can get one of them, but it doesn't matter. I want Kama. And the way I go about it, because the one thing I've noticed over the years is that a lot of people, in the first two methods, they go for it that way, they end up extremely mad. Because they did not actually put a lot of risk assessment into their choices, and they picked banners that had units, or even this is true in general, I've just seen people do this all the time. They picked banners that have units they actively dislike on them. They're like, no, you don't understand, I'm going for this unit, and then if I get this unit, I'm mad, I'm going to uninstall. Why would you do any of that? So I think the best way of approaching it, and this is my personal way of doing it. I'm not saying that you don't have to do it my way. As long as you're satisfied with the choice that you made, you're like, no, I understand, Wookie, that's the smart way of doing it. But I didn't start playing a gacha to be smart. I started playing a gacha for the risk. Then fine, go ahead and do what you're doing. But you could also kind of risk it in your head and say like, okay, well, which one of these banners is the safest for me to pick that have units I could potentially use, units that are brand new, units that I love and stuff like that, and don't feature specifically units that would make me go fucking crazy if I ever pulled them. For example, I would really like Gilgamesh, but if I picked on Gilgamesh's banner, there's a chance of me getting a Makusa, and I would absolutely lose my fucking mind if I pulled him because I don't like him. So there's no reason for me to pull on this banner, even though it's a 1 in 5 chance of getting either one of them, either getting my best option or getting my worst option. It's way worse than, it just doesn't make sense to me to do it that way when I could also just as easy go for the banner I decided on, which is this one, which is the one which features Telemeos, Tez, and Rasputin, which I'll go over why I think that one's pretty nice, and in a bit when I get there, eventually. But yeah, that's how I kind of see it. So another thing to kind of talk about now is that if you just want a quick direction on which one of these banners are kind of the ones to go on, I can kind of go over that a bit before I start talking about all the units and all the banners that are on here. Obviously, I want you to come up with the decision yourself because I don't know what's in your box. I can't make the decision for you. The best I can do is give you as much advice as I can. But if you're someone who's just like so literally like, please just tell me some banners, first of all, I think the 15-minute video coming out tomorrow is likely better for you, but if you're already this far into the video, I can at least point you at those banners and say like, hey, take a look at these. The first of them is the one that features Summer Scotty. She's here with 3 other units as well. I don't think this is probably the weakest of the ones that have a big support unit on it, which I'll go into it pretty soon as we start talking about more of the banners. Next is the one that has Castoria on it. I think the only one that's really a big miss here is Shiwandi, which again I'll explain pretty soon. We have the Koyanskaya of Light banner, which is absolutely amazing. It features Melusane, Morgan, and Koyanskaya of Darkness. Crazy banner. I'll be talking about that more soon enough. Oberon's banner is here. Obviously, you definitely want to be going for Oberon if you already have someone like Koyanskaya of Light. His banner also features Arjuna Altar, which is pretty nice, and 2 other pretty good Buster units to go with them. And then for the DPS side, we have this Buster banner, which is crazy. It has Ash the Savior, it has Tiamat, it has Archetype Earth, and Cuckoo on it. Definitely worth going for in my eyes. The AOE for Arts Men, which is Telemeos, Tez, and Rasputin. Rasputin is not on the same wavelength as power as these two, but I still think it's worth the 33% chance of potentially getting him compared to how powerful these two are. And then I feel so bad for leaving out Quick, but Doman does have 2 Quick banners, but neither one of them have a very high chance of getting Doman, which is funny because a 1 in 5 is still a pretty good shot of getting Doman, but obviously, when 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 are the other ones, and obviously 1 in 5 just by the nature of it is pretty bad. And then another one that I want to kind of just bring up, oh yeah, this one that features, Melusane and Summer Castoria, also really good if you're looking for an arts DPSer. The other big best arts unit for farming purposes, and I think in a lot of times in general use, is definitely Summer Ibuki. This banner is also pretty alright. And then finally, the one I just want to give a shout out for because I just love her so much, it's the Van Gogh banner. Ever since I've gotten my Van Gogh, I've loved using her. I love the gameplay of Van Gogh. A 1 in 3 chance of Van Gogh is really good. She really doesn't get a lot of the conversation when you start talking about like, the supporter units, but the fact that she's able to buff so much of this existence outside of the domain to the point where some foreigners can't get it, because if they were able to be used with Van Gogh, they'd be insane. Like if I could use Van Gogh with Cuckoo, oh, I would be making some crazy ass videos. But that's a very quick overview of me saying here's some to keep an eye on, and now let's actually start talking about these banners individually and how I feel about them. I've avoided it long enough. It's finally time to go over all 29 of these sons of bitches. So let's begin. We're going to be going in order, which is going to be Quick Girls, then Arts Girls, then Buster Girls, and then Quick Boys, Arts Men, and then Buster Men, and then we can just all go home happy at the end of this. So banner 1, which is Quick Single Target Girls 1. This is a 1 in 5 chance to get any one of them, so it's 20% for any of them. The units on it are Saber Okita, Skahawk, Mysterious Heroine X, Mysterious Heroine X Alter, and Melt. I think it's a pretty good batch of fan favorite characters that are all pretty solid. Mysterious Heroine X is, I think, the weakest of the bunch, and if you're not a big fan of her, then it's likely that she's going to end up being the dud. Though something that's nice about this banner is that when you include all this, you'll almost get back all the same quartz you paid for if you get her, because you'd be doing her interludes and strengthenings, so you get a crazy amount of them. From that point on, I think Okita's a pretty good single target Saber unit still. Skahawk, I still use to this day as my go-to single target Lancer, our Mysterious Heroine X Alter, is also really good if you are specifically fighting against Saber type enemies, because she deals good Saber servants, I should say, because she deals bonus damage to Saber class servants, and then also those with the good alignment. And then Melt also will eventually get a strengthening to her Noble Phantasm, which removes the only negative about it, which is that it does not remove buffs first before hitting with it, which it will do afterwards. And then she also gets some more to quick arts performance and stuff like that, and deals more damage. So overall, I think it's a pretty good banner if all you're looking for is like a brand new unit on there and you're just kind of going for one of them. Next, we have Quick Single Target Girls 2, which features Astolfo, Somersaulter, Assassin Kama, and Kagekiyo. So the main draw of this banner is a 25% chance of Kama. The problem is actually Somersaulter and Astolfo. Kama is an amazing single target assassin that can carry a lot of fights even at just NP1. From my own experience, I can tell you that pretty easily. Literally, during one of the big Beast Olga fights, I used her to kind of clutch up that win, and I was very happy for it, and she did and all at NP1 too. And later on, she is going to get a buff that makes her even better, which is an insane thing to say. Like, she's already good as is, but eventually she goes from rank C to rank B, and that will make it so that if she's at MP1, you can see here, it's basically the equivalent of having her at MP2, which is amazing. Absolutely astonishing. Somersaulto and Astolfo both kind of need buffs to be more viable. I don't know what they tried to do with Somersaulter. It just doesn't really work out for me all that much. I think they've tried with this one, with this strengthening, but the other two skills, they need to be buffed, because what do you mean you increase your own quick performance for a single attack over 3 turns, even with a cooldown of 3? And it's also only 30%. What? I don't know what was going on there. She does do, I guess, a little bit of this, of attack up and quick up, but still, in general, I feel like she needs to get more buffs. As someone who owns Somersaulter, I would really like her to get more buffs. And Astolfo, I feel, is the same way. If he just needs a little bit more to be more viable. But they could also you could give that a pass if you're a fan. I know a lot of people like Astolfo and a lot of people like Somersaulter. I'm going to be saying this for a lot of the units on here, that if I have any negativity towards them, all that negativity can be simply erased if you like them, in which case it doesn't matter. That's why I say usually the best people that have it, the people that have it the best, are the people who don't summon for specifically units that are crazy powerful due to their skills, but they have crazy love for them because they are who they are. It makes it much easier when you do it that way. But again, I try and go over all aspects of everything when I talk about these units. Anyway, Kagekiyo is great as a last man standing unit, and she's not better than Kama, but I do think that they are better than Astolfo and Somersaulter. So if you can win a coin toss of a 50% between, and so you toss a coin, you either get one of the 2 duds in my eye, or you get one of the 2 positives, or maybe the coin isn't a coin, and all of these are pretty solid for you. Whether it may be, just know before you go in. Next, we'll go to Quick Single Target and Support Girls. 1 in 4 chance, so a 25% to get any one of them. Medusa, Azuma no Akoni, Bazette, and Wanjina. I think these are 4 pretty solid units. Medusa deals more damage to the man attribute, and her damage kind of falls off if you're not fighting someone who's of the man attribute. But if you can probably help that a little bit if you get more invested and put in more NP copies of her. This is just as someone who has Saber Medusa. That's been my overall feel of it, is that I'm like, when I'm not fighting someone of the man attribute, I feel like I could make up that NP damage by simply getting more NP copies. Bazette has a unique counter NP that I found fun to play with whenever I'm using a friend Bazette. This thing also reads extremely hard to use, simply because trying to understand it takes a little bit, but once you're actually up and running, I think it's really fun, especially if you're fighting a break bar unit. She has the unique ability to be able to 2-turn instead of 3-turn someone that has 3 break bars, because you can take down their 1 break bar and then kind of go from there. Yeah, I think that's the way. That's the way it goes, because you would be able to take down the first break bar, You then, on your next go ahead, break the break bar that's now at 1 HP, and then they're down to their final life, and then they get killed when they run out of damage. So that's how you're able to two-turn something that you would usually take 3-turn. Again, very fun. I really do like using the unit a whole bunch. I wish I actually had one of my own. Akoni deals more to demonic enemies, but in my experience kind of talking with people, they really don't like single target casters in general. This is a very weird one because I feel like any of the negative that I would have to say about Akoni come down to the fact that people just don't like caster. So for me, she doesn't really have any negatives. I feel it's like nothing but positives from me. I like using caster units and stuff like that, but some people just straight up don't see the point in it. Wandjina can deal a lot of damage if you use her mechanics correctly, but for others, they may not like the kind of like gameplay loop that it provides. So probably personal bias plays a large part on this one, just because, again, I feel like if you hate Akoni, then obviously you don't want to go for it. But if you also badly want Medusa, because this is another fan favorite type character, you kind of have to weigh that out in your mind. So I can't do that outweighing for everyone. It goes beyond, it's a bar beyond, like, I can talk about strength. I can't really talk about personal grudges and stuff like that. Next, we have AOE Quick Girls 1. It's a 1 in 5 chance to get any one of them, so it's a 20%. And the units on it are Sema Okita Alter, Sei Shonagon, Karen, Ashia Domin, Jacques de Molay. Domin, I think, is the best of the group here. Both Domin banners this year have a 1 in 5 chance of getting Domin, so which of the two you are picking is typically... Let's say, again, you're assuming that you are going for Domin specifically because Domin can offer a lot of good stuff and what he kind of does, because he's able to support Evil Chaotic, I believe. Yes, Evil and Chaotic aligned allies, and that can be extremely helpful for some specific team builds. He can also, on AoE, kill certain mobs. He has 120% chance to instant kill them, which can be extremely helpful if you are fighting against someone who is a silver rarity enemy and they have a lot of HP and you just need to get them done. I've done this before in the past where it was actually, he made a grinding node extremely easy because even though he didn't do enough damage, he instant killed all of them, and that's all that kind of matters. And it's AoE, so that's also extremely helpful. So this one kind of leans pretty hard into personal preference. Sei Shonagon, I know that a lot of people kind of see her as a deal breaker just based off of the ones that I've talked about in the past. For some reason, it's always people just really did not like her. This is another unit that I like, but a lot of people I've seen just not have a very positive thing about them. Okita, Summer Okita is obviously a summer unit, and it's also a fan favorite because it's Okita. Karen is also an extremely good AoE quick unit, and Jacques de Molay, I never hear people say anything about her positive or negative. So she kind of has that quality of the Invisible Man, where no one really dumps on her from what I could see. They just kind of go... The most dumping I've ever seen done on her was just saying specifically, I would have really liked the male version, and we got the female one instead. So, is what it is on that one. Next banner is the AoE Quick Girls 2. 1 in 4 chance, so a 25% chance to get any one of the units featured on here. The units featured on them are Britomart, Hyunzo, Senno Rikyu, and Summer Scotty. This banner features the main quick support, Summer Scotty, so obviously if you are interested in quick looping or any kind of quick support, then you're looking for this banner to be summoning on. The biggest risk is this banner is actually funny enough that if you get one of the other units but you're specifically summoning for Summer Scotty, you'll have a unit that would really like Summer Scotty but have no Scotty. So it kind of leaves you with a really bad feeling. This bad feeling is bad enough that I have to bring it up, because I don't think you realize how bad it is to kind of go for a support unit on GSSR going, I need this person to let me be able to do all the quick looping or challenge quest type things that I want them to do, And then you fail and you get a unit that you really are likely just going to kind of keep in box until you can kind of figure out a way to use them, or wait till you get a Summer Scotty or a regular Scotty. A Rikyu, I think, is kind of the best off in that kind of case because you can still use them on other types of teams. But the other two aren't so lucky, where if you're not specifically having Summer Scotty, it's kind of a feels bad as you kind of wait to get more. You kind of just wait to get Summer Scotty at that point. But those are the quick girls, and now we'll move on to the arts. So the first of the Arts Girls banner is Single Target Arts Girls 1, which has a 1 in 4 chance, so a 25% chance to get any of the ones on them. We have Bride Nero, we have Benny Enma, we have Summer Saber Archer, and Young Gafoy. I like all 4 units on this banner. Benny is a bit of a weird single target unit that also supports, but I really like using her whenever I can, and plus later on there are going to be the grand fights where maybe having a weird single target unit that can deal a decent bit of damage and also support the team is going to be very useful in a kind of fight like that. We have Bride Nero, who I've used both for offense and support, both for her offensive capabilities and her support skills in the past, because she has like the most insane, like, I don't know why they gave this to her, but they did. But she has the ability to give one ally 45% NP rate and then 30% to their NP gauge as well. And then she can also give them 40% attack and some star rate. And then she can also give them 30% bonus damage to Sky, to someone with the Sky attribute. Which is just very silly. It's a lot of things to give a unit, and then if you don't want to use her for any of the support here, you can just give them all to her and then hit really hard with her single target Noble Phantasm. Summer Saber could loop before Castoria came out, and after Castoria came out, she's really good at just hitting people with her Noble Phantasm over and over and over again. I've done plenty of fights where all I've done is hit someone with that Noble Phantasm, and then because it has a 70% chance to reduce their MP gauge by 1, even if they're able to tank it for a bit, they just keep getting hit with it over and over again. When she's the last unit surviving in a team, she can stay alive for a pretty decent bit here because she's able to increase her defense. She has the ability to kind of recover her own HP just with the reduction of NP gauge by 10%. If you time this well, then you can use that one first and then use this ability, which will give her 30% to NP. You very rarely ever run into the issue where you don't have NP gauge with her. And then Young Gafoy, I think, is a good defensive unit against Berserkers, who can also deal bonus damage after you get them on fire. I think if you're looking for a safe banner where you don't have any of the units, I think this is probably one of the most safest banners on here, because I think any one of these would make you pretty happy to get, as long as you don't have any of them. But if you are looking for maybe a more risky of a unit, then there are other banners to go for. Like if you're looking for a bigger DPS or a bigger support unit, then obviously you can go for something a little bit more riskier. So next banner, we have Single Target Arts Girls 2, which is a 1 in 4 chance of getting any one of them, which is a 25% chance of Trunk Sisters, Melusine, Summer Castoria, or Usagi Kenshin. Now this banner is kind of more up for the people who are looking for a stronger DPS and are willing to risk a 25% chance of getting the Trunk Sisters. The Trunk Sisters aren't bad, they just aren't on the same level as the other 3 in my opinion. Melu has 2 NP types, being a single target arts unit and a buster AoE. She's really good as a single target unit for arts, but you'll need to be careful not to use her skill 3 until the fight is close to over, or she's dying, because she switches to her NP. She switches to her other NP, which is Buster, which is a Buster AoE, and there's no way back unless you die and then revive afterwards, in which case she will come back as her single target self, but kind of keep that in mind if you're using her for that. I have used her for that, and it takes a little bit of getting used to, but, you know, you just kind of play like as if you only have 2 skills. Summer Castoria works really well with herself and deals extra damage to threat to humanity enemies and anyone with chaotic alignment and divinity. Kenshin works really great in challenge quest fights where you're able to take advantage of her being the ruler class. She can also remove all enemy buffs before hitting with her NP and deal more damage to enemies of the man attribute. The Trunk Sisters are also good. Them being saber supports means that they can help you out in the grand fights that we will get later on. In those grand fights, I kind of mentioned the grand fights a little bit beforehand, but just to let you know, you can only use that class, so it allows units that to shine more who previously couldn't. So the last time I remember talking about the Trunk Sisters, I never really vibed with their kit. I could never really get into it. They're a support unit, but they don't seem like the craziest support unit in the world. They also buff themselves, but only on their arts and their buster. And then on their third skill, they once again can buff the party while also charging their own NP and giving some additional stuff like that. And on their Noble Phantasm, they have the ability to recover the party's HP while also increasing their arts and buster performance. These are all things that I just felt like didn't really vibe well with the unit itself until we got a fight where you could only bring sabers in, and then in that case, you could finally see a case for sabers that have a little bit more of a support ability to them, because you'll be able to use them there. So yeah, I do think that they end up being pretty good units. It's just that it's hard to compare to like the other 3 units that are on here. You know, it was always going to be kind of an issue going through them, I'll be honest with it. Let's move on to the next banner, which is Support AOE Girls 1, which is a 1 in 4 chance or a 25% chance of Reigns, Castoria, Scotty, or Shihuandi. Castoria is obviously amazing. She's the go-to for art support, and just about any box will be better once it has Castoria in it. If you're missing Castoria, then this is likely the banner you're going to be going for, unless you just don't like Castoria for some reason. A 1 in 4 shot at her is pretty good, and if you miss her, it's not too bad. Caster Scotty is still a really good quick support that can be used alongside Summer Scotty, though funny enough, regular Scotty gives quick crit damage while Summer gives buster, so she ends up being better for units that like have 3 quick cards to them, because she is the way to give them crit damage. The other one only cares about buster. Very funny, I think. Probably their way to be able to say you can still run both of them and stuff like that. Reigns is a great generic support unit that can be brought in whenever you just need 50% NP and some buffs. Shihuandi is the outlier of the bunch, not really a support unit, and mostly wants to be used in challenge quests to take full advantage of their skills and NP. Overall, a good banner with how you personally feel about Scotty or Shihuandi playing a big part in how you'll feel about getting them on this banner. The reason I bring up Scotty is that I've heard of just some people feel that Quick is just too expensive to actually get in on, so they probably would get a little bit sad if they got Scotty instead of Castoria. It's like missing, it's a pretty bad miss in that kind of case, but to be fair, any unit kind of compared next to them outside of, I guess, Oberon and the other 2 big supports, which are Summer, Scotty, and Koyanskaya of Light, kind of looks bad when you miss on him. And Shihuandi, yeah, I think I've said this before, I've just never been a big fan of the specific gameplay that they provide, so I can only give my opinions on this one. Don't feel bad if you like the Chinese Emperor. I feel like, again, if you care about them, you care about them, and the hell to what I have to say about anything else. Next, move on to Support Girls 2. A 1 in 3 chance or a 33% chance of Miss Crane, Van Gogh, or Lady Avalon. Really cool banner. Van Gogh is a powerful foreigner. Using 2 can make any unit with existence outside of the main deal a ton of crit damage while also generating a ton of crit stars for them to use. The way you're able to do this is through her Noble Phantasm, which you can see here after you use it. It gives crit damage to everyone with existence outside of the domain 100% for 3 turns, while also gaining 10 crit stars. So when you're going with double Van Gogh and you're using both of them, you're getting 200% crit damage, and then you're also critting with their other cards, which are also 3 quick, an arts, and a buster. So then you're getting back your NP, and then you're doing it again. It's a very it's a very good buff to have because it's not really skill dependent. It's just dependent on your ability to actually get your NP gauge up and stuff like that. And then for the other ones, Miss Crane, no. Lady Avalon is an art support who can give arts units crit damage while also providing them crit stars and defense. Miss Crane is a very different type of support. She wants to be used with units who have alternate costumes. She also is able to give her support and then move straight to the back row with her NP, but also makes her very hard to use. I've talked to a lot of people in the past who are always confused about what's the best way to use their Miss Crane. So it's not a unit for everyone. And honestly, if it wasn't for Lady Avalon, I would likely summon on this banner because I would really like Miss Crane, and I would always be okay with more Van Gogh dupes. Next, we have AOE Girls 1, which is a 1 in 5 chance or a 20% chance of getting Void Shiki, Da Vinci, Shuten Doji, Kiara, and Hokusai. And for the Da Vinci, it is obviously Caster Da Vinci. There's another banner that has like 5 good units on them, but none of them like super crazy pop out at me. I think if you're summoning on this one, it's because you really wanted one of the 5 girls on it. Void Shiki's gimmick is to instant kill. Da Vinci isn't really used for looping due to her NP only having a single hit on it, but she offers a lot of support in her skills. Shuten Doji also isn't really a looper, but she gives the enemy a ton of debuffs, and Kiara is really solid looper. That thanks to her passive, she actually has an advantage against rulers. It's like called the Nega Saver. You can see right there. Really nice added thing of being able to do bonus 1.5 damage to rulers. But she also does kind of suffer from being an alter ego, which is something that a lot of alter egos kind of suffer from, which is that if you're fighting a node that has like a weird assortment of units, like for example an archer and a rider, you're obviously not going to be able to do enough damage to the archer to kill him a lot of the times. This is kind of something a lot of the alter ego class kind of has to contend with, which is very unfortunate, but there's nothing they can do against their own class. I still think she's still pretty solid in what she does, at least in my experience using her. And then Hokusai is also great at looping, fighting berserkers, and dealing extra damage to anyone with the man attribute. So yeah, overall, all 5 of them are really good for various reasons. It's just none of them are so good that it would make sense to kind of go for this one over one of the ones that kind of offer more DPS or something like that. So if you really like one of the girls on it, I could see someone summoning for it. Otherwise, I think most people are likely to skip it. AOE Girls 2, a 1 in 4 chance or a 25% chance of getting Summer Jean, Kid Da Vinci, Murasaki Shikabue, or Summer Musashi. A lot of the risk in this banner comes down to how you feel about Murasaki Shikabue. I think she's a good unit, but similar to what I talked about with Okoni, some people just really don't like DPS casters and don't see a need for them. Kid Da Vinci has been hit by a bit of power creep, but she still is usable and offers up some support as well. With the upcoming collab with the Fate Samurai, Musashi gets her buff that makes her amazing at fighting Saber class enemies that are servants. As you can see right here, dealing extra damage while also sealing their NP. Very nice. And then we have Summer Jean, who has not changed since her release. She was really good at looping when she released, and she continues to be really good at looping, and that's basically it for her on that, as far as that goes. I thought about summoning on this banner, but I decided I don't need Summer Jean. So funny enough, talking about personal preference once again, this is one banner where I was like, I wouldn't mind more copies of Kid Da Vinci. I wouldn't mind more copies of Summer Musashi, and I would really like Murasaki Shikabue, but because I really don't have a purpose for Summer Jean, probably wasn't a very good idea to kind of go for it, to be honest with you. And then the next banner, we have AOE Arts Girls 3, which is a 1 in 4 chance or a 25% chance of Kyokutai Baiken, Summer Kama, Space Ishtar, and Summer Kiara. This is another pretty safe banner if all you care about is getting a new unit without the risk of getting a bad one. Bakken really wants to fight demonic evil alignment enemies and can offer some support with her skill 1, 2. And then she also gets 8 crit stars on her NP, exactly 8, because it's obviously the 8 Dogs Chronicles, so of course she's going to give 8 crit stars. Summer Kama deals bonus damage to units who are charmed. Space Ishtar has a unique ability to change her NP type with her skill 2. And Summer Kiara hits the hardest when the enemy has a huge stack of mental debuffs on them. All 3 have kind of aged a bit, but they're still kind of fully functional loopers. Funny enough, that trio that I mentioned beforehand were kind of in the contention for the best AoE looper for arts until Summer Ibuki showed up, which, speaking of, she's on the next banner, which is AOE Girls 4, which is a 1 in 4 chance or a 25% chance of Durga, Summer Ibuki, Pope Joanna, or Summer Melu. Summer Ibuki is the best AoE arts unit. She deals bonus damage to Earth attributed enemies, is extremely powerful, and if you were to ask me what is the arts unit I should be going for after I get Castoria, it would be her. If I could give her a flaw, it's that she relies on other units to give her defensive support, and some people just really don't like Ryda's design for her. I think Castoria has more than enough defensive capabilities to make up for the fact that she doesn't have any on her own. And the people who don't like Ryda's design are weak to me, and that's the way I see it. All jokes, of course, but some truth to that. The other units on this banner, though, are Summer Melu is a fantastic looper who is also anti-Earth attribute. Durga deals bonus damage to demonic enemies and the Sky attribute. She also is a soccer face who had her Thunder stolen away from Ptolemaeus, but is still good, I'd say. Pope Joanna is kind of a jack of all trades, but a master of none. She offers a lot of useful support abilities and deals bonus damage against the man attribute enemies. But she doesn't excel in any one direction. Likely best used as a toolbox and brought out when you think you could use one of the abilities in a given situation. I thought about summoning on this banner for my 6th copy of Summer Ibuki, and at worst I would get a Pope Joan dupe, and that would make her hit harder at least, which is something that would be nice for her to have. I decided against it because going for a 6th copy of a GSSR is like a biblical levels of greed, which guarantees me getting Pope Joan and stop my sin. So I just decided not to go for it. Next, we have Buster Girls, which is single target Buster Girls. So a 1 in 4 chance or a 25% chance of Summer Tomomo, Brunhilde, Ilya, or Jalter. I think if you love Jalter and you don't got her, you're likely summoning on this. For specifically her, I think every year I read someone using their GSSR to try and get her. She's a fan favorite for a reason, and her unit is still usable, I'd say. A simple unit, but nothing wrong with that. As for the other 3, we have Summer Tomomo, who deals bonus damage to men, Brunhilde, who deals bonus damage to anyone who she views as a loved one, basically anyone who kind of relates to Sigurd, man, female, whichever one of them, as long as they kind of remind her of him, she's willing to go say that they're a beloved one. And then finally Ilya, who's a bit of a weird Buster unit, with her having 3 arts cards, making it impossible for her to Brave Chain using just her cards. I still think she's pretty solid, and she has some stuff I wish they would improve, but overall not bad. But like I've mentioned, a decent amount of times people just don't like DPS casters, so she just might not be for everyone. Moving on, we have single target and support Buster Girls. This is a 1 in 4 chance or a 25% chance of getting Musashi, Himiko, Super Bunyan, or Abby. So this one is a definite big case of how much personal bias do you have towards them, and I'll get to the unit. I have to bring this up almost every single time I've ever talked about him, but we'll get to her soon. So to start with, we have Musashi, who her MP is Anti-Alter Ego and Mooncaster, and she is still very useful in kind of tougher battles. I think she could use some buffs on her first and second skills just because they have kind of aged a bit from when she first released, and they have not gone into strengthening since. As you can see here, the fact that the Buster performance only lasts for a single turn and the Ignore Invincibility only lasts for a single turn, it's just not the greatest. And in terms of this one, I think it just could use a little bit more buffs. Granting yourself invincibility is nice, and removing your own debuffs is still nice, but I think you could probably get a little bit more than just crit star generation rate for today's age. But yeah, I still think that even with some of the caveat I've said there, I still think she is still pretty good. Himiko, I think, is an amazing think outside the box buster support that can be used in a ton of fun ways, but it also can be kind of tricky to use. The reason I say this is that I've kind of talked in the past about using her for her buster support capabilities, and I've had a lot of very interesting teams that use her and Summer Saber Lion King, which is another unit that we'll talk about a little bit later on. But I was able to use a really fun team that was able to use her and then a bunch of other units taking advantage of her capabilities and stuff like that. And people see me do it that way and they say like, okay, so great, what's a good generic kind of buster team that you can use her on for anything? And she really doesn't have one of those. What she does have is she does have a team that you can just kind of use with anything and it will always be good, and that is a team that she has with Castoria and Merlin, which is just insanely tanky that it can be extremely hard to kill once you have all three of them kind of going, just because of all the different layers of protection they have and overcharge to their NPs and stuff like that. Next we have to talk about, it's Abby. I'm going to talk about Abby. Abby can deal a lot of damage to enemies who have fear, but if they kind of prevent fear from being put on them, it leaves her extremely weak. This is a thing that I've talked a lot about Abby whenever you go there. Obviously, she can still do pretty well against Berserkers because she has type advantage over them, and she also takes less damage from them, but a lot of her damage is kind of tied to being able to hit people while they have terror, but it also only lasts for a single turn, and then terror, if they don't get infected with terror, then just nothing happens to them, right? So could still go a little bit of a ways to be a little bit more powerful, I would say. Like, she needs more help than what she's currently getting. And then finally, this is the unit that I have to talk about. Funny enough, you probably thought it was Abby. It's not actually Abby. It's Super Bunyan. Super Bunyan is the unit that I've seen the most people kind of disagree on. I first noticed it when Super Bunyan got her strengthening, which you can see right here down below. She got a strengthening that increased her power, which was not something that most people were kind of talking about her. It was actually talking about how kind of a little lackluster her skills were, and they did not increase her skills to any kind of significant degree. She also has a specific mechanic where she wants to do more attacks, and she also gives herself a buff on defense buff as well, which is more likes, and that will also power up her Noble Phantasm once you have full stacks of it. But obviously, if you're just using her Noble Phantasm, you're not collecting the stacks. So it can be a whole thing about it. So the reason I noticed this is when Super Bunny got that strengthening, the English side of the community were speaking up, complaining about how this didn't really help any of the problems that people had with her. Meanwhile, in Japan, people were complaining that she got buffed when she didn't need it. And that's when I learned that there was a disparity between, I guess, the JP side and the English side. And the reason is that Super Bunyan has a 3-second long NP animation, which makes her absolutely amazing at farming because you spend so little time on the NP animation. Not to say that she doesn't have a long NP. There is actually an NP that you can get a longer animation for if you want to go it that way. But one of her animations literally takes up 3 seconds and then boom, you're done. There's nothing else to it. You just get it, you get in, you get out. And if you're doing this game, you're doing a lot of farming. If you've been doing the lotto farm, you kind of understand where I'm coming with it at this. Where if you spend less time on the Noble Phantasm, then obviously you get more time farming. But this is such a big farming pilled brain take that you would have to then say that if this unit is in fact one of the best farmers, which I can say that after people said that, I started using my Super Bunyan a lot more for farming purposes. And yeah, she gets stuff done super quick. But the problem is because of her skills being built the way that they are, and she doesn't really have like an anti-humanity, anything like that, she's very power dependent. So the best way to kind of get her power up is actually to just increase the amount of Noble Phantasm copies that you have. So it kind of goes a lot of different ways. I think it really does kind of fall out. I think I've come on to the situation where I feel like Super Bunyan is actually extremely good at farming aspects of it just because of how fast her NP is. But the fact that it's also tied a lot, if you're going to be doing some of the harder nodes in the game, so much of it is tied to getting more NP copies of her that I can't, in good conscience, say that that's a good thing. So that's why I say, like, it really kind of depends at this point on the way the players see Super Bunyan, because I've obviously talked to plenty of people who did not feel Super Bunyan was warranted as to being one of the better units out there just because she has a 3-second long NP animation, which is maybe honestly the funniest thing that it can kind of break down. The fact that the barriers of breakdown literally come down to, we cannot put on the damn list this unit is extremely good because their animations don't last very long. That's just an insane thing to say. But for some people, they go, the numbers speak for themselves. I can get a lot of farming in when there's not that much animation to be played in the background. So, depending on how you feel about Super Bunyan probably is likely how much. A lot of people don't like Super Bunyan, and a lot of people also don't like Abby, and a lot of people love Musashi, and I'm not sure how people feel about Himiko, but I feel more people should love Himiko. So it kind of depends on you at this point if you want to summon on this banner, but again, I feel for the most part, unless you super care about one of them, you're very unlikely to summon on it. Now, let's move on to the other Buster units, because goddamn, AOE had 5. I didn't realize how many Buster units they released in the game until we got to the 5 AOE Buster categories that they had to break these dudes down into. It's insane. Anyway, AOE Buster Girls 1. It's a 1 in 5 chance or a 20% chance of getting Ishtar, Ereshkigal, Summer Nero, Cleo, or Raiko. Cleo gets much better once we get the second skill strengthened, but it's not here until our upcoming anniversary, so that's unfortunate. Ishtar is a simple unit, but until her third skill gets a strengthening during the 10th anniversary in 2027, but she's still effective and good regardless without it. Just like the last two, Erish also gets a buff during the evocation, during this year, 2026. During Evocation Festival 7, she's as good as a looper, and she's still as good as a looper without it, and can still be useful in tougher fights where you fight a lot of enemies, and then also her skill 3 is able to buff the entire party's defense, and then also when you're using her Noble Phantasm, she's also giving them a defensive boost. So you can see right here, the third skill grants the party the Blessing of Kerr, and then while she has Blessing of Kerr, she's able to, while they have Blessing of Kerr, she's able to increase their attack with it and do a lot of other nice stuff. She's also able to give them instant kill immunity if you're fighting a boss that also has that in there, and deals 150% extra damage to dudes with the Earth attribute, of course. And then for the last one on here, we have, no, there's actually more on here. God, there's so many units to talk about. Raiko is an amazing Buster Looper who deals a lot of damage to servants with the Earth or Sky attribute and Demonic. Summer Nero has a skill that just takes away her defensive disadvantage against all classes for 3 turns, and her NP buff during the 10th anniversary is really nice. It's actually kind of, I feel like, again, you would never guess that Summer Nero and Summer Salter released at the same time based off of this goddamn buff. Based off of just how, in general, she's been able to kind of get away with no buffs. Like, this skill in and of itself that just says ignore defensive class disadvantage is pretty crazy, while also increasing your attack and defense by like 30% both for 3 turns. And then this ability here gives her anti-beast and anti-threat to humanity, and also charges the party's MP gauge by 10%, deals more damage, and it also ignores invincibility. It's kind of crazy how much, of the two of them, you would never assume that both of them released at the same time. And now let's move on to AOE Buster Girls 2. So this is a 1 in 5 chance, or 20% chance, I should say, not 25%. Hopefully I didn't say that for the last one. Okay, I said 20%. That's good. Of Semiramis, Avenger Nobu, Okita Alter, King Protea, or Summer BB. I think you're likely only summon on this if you super care about one of these units. As one of those type of banners. Semiramis has some fun toolkit stuff that can be used in challenge quests. Party buff removal resistance on NP, reduction of enemy debuff resistance, able to remove her own weakness to caster class enemies for 3 turns, gives poisons and does more damage to foes who have been poisoned. But it's also not a unit most people would gravitate towards, but If it speaks to you, then hey, it speaks to you. They've buffed Avenger Nobu to like a crazy amount, and even released a friend point banner unit whose main goal was buffing her. So she's good. If you don't do that much for a unit and they continue to be bad, then there's a bigger issue going on. Okita Alter also received a lot of buffs for her main weakness. She's received a lot of buffs, but her main weakness again comes down to the fact that she's an alter ego. So she runs into the same problems I talked about with Summer Kiara, where if they're in a weird node, then obviously she's not going to be able to finish off one of the enemies because she has type disadvantage. Makes it hard to kind of like pick your fights with them when it's the case of that. King Protea is good, but her growth mechanic can be a bit too complicated for some people. Just to show you what I mean, you can literally look at it and say, like, do you want... I don't even have to repeat all this, but you can just look at this and go like, okay, yeah, I think I understand a little bit. But obviously, once you actually understand and know how to use the unit, I think you're able to take advantage of it. It just depends on you, the player, sitting down and saying, I'm ready to learn this. And then finally, Summer BB I think is just straight up awesome. She can be used for looping if that's the way you want to do it. And her third skill locks command cards in. And we're getting pretty close because this year, 2026, is the year where we're going to be able to get Summer Seal. And Summer Seal has the ability where she's able to shuffle the cards so that it's all her cards. And then you can swap in for another unit and then keep BB, and then BB will lock in the command cards, and then you can actually potentially farm with units through pure crit damage if you're only fighting like a single enemy. Because a lot of the time you can actually put in a lot of work on the enemy if all you're doing is crit damage, but obviously you can never decide that. But with that combo right there, the ability to fully make sure that it's 5 cards of one person and you know that Summer Seal is going to be swapped out, bringing in the other one and then BB locking them in, and then also BB will be able to gain crit stars every turn, which is also another pre-key thing that you can do. I think it's really awesome. I think it's really cool. I think she's a sick-ass unit. So I guess another reason that you would kind of want to be going for it is that you also just badly want Summer BB, which is very understandable. Who wouldn't want Summer BB? She's awesome. Next, we have AOE Buster Girls 3, which is a 1 in 4 chance or a 25% chance of Saber Ibuki, Romulus Quernus, Summer Lion King, and Summer Abby. Saber Ibuki is a solid AOE buster who has aged a bit, still good, but has some strange choices, such as her skill 1 attack buff, only lasting for 3 hits. I think enough time has passed where I understand why they originally did this, because this is also tied to a 50% NP charger. They said, you know, this is extremely powerful, it's 40% attack, we don't want her to completely out-validate everyone, we'll make it so that it only happens for 3 times over 3 attacks, and I feel with the way that the game is currently, that's kind of insane. They could probably buff this and remove that, and then that would be enough of a buff, if I'm being honest with you. It's one of those things, like, it made complete sense when she first released, but they kept releasing stronger units. So it ends up being a case of like, well, why the hell did you limit one thing if you were always going to increase the power of everything else? You just wanted her to be... You didn't want her to be that powerful right away, is something that I would assume was that they were doing. But anyway, Romulus Quernus, I've already... no, I've not. Romulus Quernus turns all things to roam. It buffs all things that are roam, and then hurts all things that are roam. They work great with Boudica, whose main gimmick is increasing damage to Roman enemies. For this too is roam. They're very roam centric. That's the reason that's how you use them, and that's the reason why you would get them, is that you're a big fan of the roam or Saint Seiya. Summer Lion King has an amazing mechanic with her second skill, which can make for a lot of fun teams where you decide which command cards show up and when she can have trouble dealing damage, but she can also have trouble dealing damage. This is where I say, like, they had to kind of give her a little bit more buffs, which they've started doing with the Night of the Lion King. Night of the Lion, I should say. Royal Card B Plus can really make it so that one enemy's command cards will never be selected. One ally's command card can never be selected. And then you kind of get a randomly 5 drawn command cards, which I think you can still use with Summer Seal to really take advantage of a lot of the shenanigans when it comes to command cards. But I always have felt that she does not deal enough damage for what she is, which is very unfortunate, especially because this skill has always annoyed me. It's 30% attack for next turn. And this thing is on a fucking cooldown of 6. It makes no sense. She also does give herself 40% NP, which is also annoying in very many ways, because it means that she gives herself it's a very annoying number. I'll just say that much. I don't want to get into a whole diatribe against her, but still good aspects to her, but obviously not the most amazing of units at times, especially with the lack of damage. But you can definitely do a lot of fun stuff. Like I mentioned, the Himiko team I used to grind a 90++ node a long time ago. Next we have Summer Abby, who is likely the reason most people would not want to be picking this GSSR. She feels kind of awkward to use, and many feel like she just doesn't do enough damage. The reason is that a lot of her damage kind of gets tied to another debuff, which is called Sleep. But if they don't get hit by the Sleep, it kind of like defeats a lot of... The nice thing is that it still does remove all their buffs at least, so that's nice. But her 50% damage only happens against this sleeping foe, only while they're asleep, and only for that one attack. So they get woken up immediately as soon as you do it. So yeah, a little bit awkward to use. Maybe not the greatest unit in the world, but I don't want to bag on her too much, because obviously Abby has her fans, and I'm not trying to like shoot down your girl, but it's obvious that she could use a little bit more help. Next, we have AOE Buster Girls 4, which is a 1 in 4 chance or a 25% chance of getting Melu, Morgan, Koyan of Light, or Koyan of Darkness. And holy shit, this is an amazing banner. Melu, as I've mentioned already, is an amazing unit. I talked about how she functions as an art unit, but as far as Buster goes, she's able to Black Grail loop, thanks to our 100% NP charge. Morgan is also an excellent all-arounder, being able to both support and deal damage. She's kind of one of the two go-fors for Buster Berserkers. It's her and Arjuna Alter. If you want pure power, obviously you go for Arjuna, but if you're more interested in like the team building aspects that Morgan can open up to you, then you would go for Morgan. Koyan of Light is the Buster support to go for. She lets Buster do something they had never done before she had been released, which is be able to loop. And it's 100% tailored around her. If a unit does not have 30% NP charge, they cannot loop with Koyan of Light, and therefore they're not really considered a looper. You'd have to use, you'd have to do it in a completely different way if you wanted to use them. Koyan of Darkness is the odd one out of the group. I've always read her kit and thought she was like perfectly fine, but a lot of people believe that she needs a buff. So I'm going to go with them because they are the ones that actually have the experience using the unit. I'm just simply looking at her kit, and when I read the kit, I feel like that's perfectly good, and I don't understand why someone would want the buff itself. But the people who use her have always said, like, no, I understand how she looks. Trust me, she needs a buff of some kind. This is an extremely easy banner to pick, by the way. Even if you already have Koyan, getting a dupe of Koyan of Light just makes her better as a DPS, because she's also an AoE unit for she's an AoE assassin. So if you were in a node that could use an AoE assassin, you can use Koyan of Light and give her more damage and use her that way. So it's not needed for her, but it is welcome. So I think it's a pretty easy banner to go on for this one to pick, because oh my god, this is just pure insane. Both of the Tomomos obviously have Tomomo fans to them. Morgan has her fans. Melu has her fans. It's just an overall easy slam dunk of a pick, in my opinion. Next, we have AOE Buster Girls 5, which is a 1 in 4 chance or a 25% chance of Ash the Savior. Larva Tiamat, Archetype Earth, or Cuckoo. This is, again, another banger GSSR in my eyes. Archetype Earth is the weakest here, but only because she's so dependent on NP level. She's super crazy and investment heavy, but if you invest in her, you'll get a Buster unit who can loop with the Black Grail and is just overall extremely powerful. Tiamat can also loop with the Black Grail and give some nice supports, but gets held back because, again, she's an alter ego. Ash is amazing as a looper and a party buffer, but she also has a lot of conditions on her buffs to get the maximum value off of them. What I mean here is, if you take a look, it's not just her skill 3, which starts as locked, but then when you meet the requirements, then it gets unlocked and you get a huge party-wide NP buffer and stuff like that. I'm talking about this second skill, where if you want to get the full maximum attack of value of it, they do need to lower their HP to about 25% or less. So yeah. Obviously not a deal breaker in any kind of sense of the word, but it is something to think about when you're using the unit. If you are someone who's trying to min-max to the hardest degree, you have to get them pretty low on life to get all of the damage from. But again, I think it's easily negotiable. Negotiable? No, negotiable. No, that's also not the word. What is the word? I went and looked it up. It was negotiable. So, sorry, it's late while I'm recording this. Let's continue on. And then finally, the last of them on here is... another nice thing about Ash the Savior, actually, is that she also doubles as... Summer Morgan. They found a way to make the anniversary unit Summer Morgan right here. So that's also an additional benefit for her. Cuckoo, which is the last unit we get to talk about for this banner, is my favorite foreigner in the game. And she's also a crazy powerful one. She's been my go-to for difficult fights and also for looping. She has so many good things, and it's easy to forget some of the amazing things that she can do. If I already didn't have 6 copies of her, I would attempt to go for this banner again, because I could easily have used 1 copy of Ash the Savior. I could have started working on Archetype Earth and started slowly building up to getting more NP copies and stuff like that. More power to TM out would have always been good, and because mine's NP5, NP6 would have let me have every single one of the append skills available to me. But yeah, some of the very many things that she does is take crit stars and then also convert them into more buffs. And you don't have to do them, obviously. But if you do them, it gives you a lot of power. Her NP gauge 50% can be given to anyone. And then if you also decide for the low price of 10 crit stars, also give them evasion and ignore evasion. It's not even something that only lasts for a single turn. It's actually for 2 attacks over 3 turns, and the ignore evasion lasts for 3 turns. It's crazy how well they did her. She's able to convert invincibilities into anti-purge defense and then just naturally gains 10 crit stars every turn, while also charging her NP gauge by 3% every turn. Anti-earth. Her NP gives her 30 crit stars, so if you use all the crit stars on turn 1, by the next turn you'll have them again. She seals skills. She deals bonus damage to threat to humanity. Oh, just absolutely beautiful unit. Definitely worth having, whether you have her at MP1 or you have her at MP5 like I do. Obviously, she's amazing at MP5, so... Whew! Alright, we finally made it to the men's section. We're almost done with the video. Thank you very much if you stuck around this long. Let's continue on. So, we have Quick Single Target Men, which features Astolfo, Kagekyo, and Wanjina. And I've already talked about all 3 of these units. So the only thing I'll say about this banner is that if you care about any one of them, a 33% chance of getting them is pretty nice. And honestly, if you care about all of them, then this is your easiest chance to get one of them. It's perfect for you, though. I know there's someone out there who's like, they finally did it. They made the banner for me. Let's move on, though, to AOE Quick Men, a 1 in 5 chance, or a not 25, I keep messing that up. 20% chance of getting Charlemagne, Takatsuji, Dantes, Domin, or Voyager. This is another Domin banner, and if you fail to get him here, instead of getting one of the ladies, you'll get one of these dudes instead. So for Charlemagne, to just talk about him, to get the maximum damage out of him, you actually want to get taken damage first, which can make it a little bit awkward to get to loop with him, because obviously he really wants to get hit in the face first. He also doesn't really have a taunt at all. He does have ways to protect the others, which is nice, but it would be nice if they set a super hard taunt on him, but he doesn't really have one of those. Unfortunate, but I like him still. I think he's a cool dude. And he has a Newsies outfit coming out pretty soon. Who doesn't love the newsies? Next, we have Takatsuji. He has a lot of hits on his NP, which makes him really good at looping for quick, and the rest of his kit is pretty alright from when I remember looking at it. Gives some support in skills 1 and 2, which is not bad, because like I said, maybe for the grand fight, you could look at him as a, oh, it's nice that he also's buffing up the allies with some crit damage and some quick buster and overcharge to the party. Not bad. Dantes is an oldie but a goodie. I wish his attack buff lasted a bit longer, is my main thing about him, because he does get 50% attack, but it's only for a single turn. The same thing goes for Ignore Invincibility. But this is another unit that's just kind of showing his age. They have buffed him a little bit, but maybe it's time for another buff. It'd be nice. I'd love my boy Dantes. I would gladly take more buffs. But again, still very much usable as a looping unit. And then Voyager can loop pretty well, and he gives a lot of NP gauge to living human allies, which is around 40% if you're someone who is a living ally. He gives 20% to the party, and then he gives everyone with living human 20%. So very nice, very well done. He's just so supportive up in space. It's a shame we lost him, but it is what it is. And of course, Dome and I already mentioned. So that's that banner. Next banner is Art Support Men, which is a 1 in 4 chance or a 25% chance of Super Orion, Merlin, Shi-Huan-Di, or Sherlock. I've already gone over Shi-Huan-Di, but because I'm talking about a ruler, Sherlock is a bit on the weak side. His NP can give the entire party Ignore Invincibility and Ignore Defense, which can be useful if you're in a challenge quest whose entire gimmick is built around having always having invincibility and high defense. Then he can finally have his time to shine, but otherwise I think he's just not very good at the moment. Super Orion is a Buster Gorilla with an Arts NP. If you lock in his cards or make it so that he's the only unit left standing, he can put out a lot of MP level damage on just a single one of his Buster crits. So like I mentioned with BB and Seal, it's definitely someone where he'll be able to take advantage of that and be able to hit him a whole bunch with it and everything. Merlin is the Buster Gorilla enabler, and if you want to get the most out of your Gorilla Busters crit damage, then you're gonna always need him. I feel like this banner is pretty risky just because, obviously, in my personal opinion, Shi-Huan-Di and Sherlock. But if you want to go for it to get Super Orion or Merlin, you know, the victor go to spoils if you decide to go for the risk. Risk it for the biscuit sometimes. Next, we have Arts AOE Men 1, which is a 1 in 3 chance, so a 33% chance of getting Muramasa, Sakamoto Ryoma with Super Oryu, and Moriarty Roller. So Muramasa, he needs his skills buffed because a lot of his power lasts for a single turn, and then that's kind of it. They most recently gave him a buff, and I talked to Muramasa fans, and they said, yeah, it's not enough, but thank you for giving us at least buffs that last for 3 turns. More than one buff that lasts for 3 turns, so still needs a little bit of work. Like I said, 50% is very nice, but when it lasts for a single turn, maybe not the greatest at that point. But obviously, he is also Shiro, so there's plenty of people who will gladly look over that and still go for him regardless. And honestly, if you're a big fan, 1 in 3 chance for a Shiro is not bad. But unfortunately, if you do miss, you're gonna be going for 2 units that are not Shiro. So next we have Ryoma. I think he's kind of weird. He gives himself 50% defense on his NP, which is great, but because it's tied to his NP also lowers the NP gauge by 1. And I know what you're thinking is like, why is that so bad? Well, the entire reason I set up the increase to own defense by 50% is likely because I thought I was going to get hit by a Noble Phantasm. This only lasts for a single turn. And now I've reduced their NP gauge by 1, so I'm not getting hit by an NP. I'm getting hit by an NP next turn, when I don't have defense off by 50% for that 1 turn. The other thing that's kind of nice is that I am making fun of him, but it also is nice that he gets NP generation rate up by 20%. This is also, of course, after his strengthening, which is going to take a bit for us to get. JP got it, I think, in 2025, so we're likely not seeing that until 2027. Some other things that he has is that he does have some nice support, a little bit of support capability to him, which is, again, nice, but only on one single skill and really only to arts. Still, it is worth mentioning, at least. Ruler Moriarty can give the enemy the evil alignment with his Noble Phantasm, which can lead to some really nice synergies with a bunch of units. Probably needs a little bit more power compared to other AoE arts units, but his future buff that he gets does help him out with that. If you like any of these three, obviously a 33% chance of getting one of them is pretty amazing. Then we have Arts AOE Men 2, which features a 1 in 3 chance or a 33% chance of getting Telemaos, Tez, or Rasputin. This is a banner I'm summoning on. Rasputin is the weakest unit on here. You really want to be able to take advantage of his skill 3, but it takes some time to get good at it because it's a skill that wants to constantly be used when he's getting gutsed. And if you do play him that way, it can probably lead to a lot of fun. But yeah, you also have to provide him with a C that's like that has constant guts of application to it. There we go. You're getting, the video's almost done, Wookie. You're so close to the finish line. Something like Necromancy, where he could always have a chance to trigger guts, which is a 50% chance to trigger guts whenever he's defeated, and then that way you can get it. There is actually a video out there on JP when this buff came out where it triggered like 8 times in a row, which is very good and very funny, and for that reason alone I would be okay with getting them, because at least it would lead to some potentially good content as we continuously flip a coin to see if Rasputin continues to live. The other units on here, Telemaos, of course, is an amazing 2-in-1, having a great AoE arts NP and a single target for Buster. Just like Mello, you need to be careful when you're deciding to use his skill 3, but once you kind of figure out the rhythm, you'll be all set. The reason I say that is because obviously if you're going to be using his arts form, it's better to start off in the Buster form, use the skill, transform, and then kind of go from there. But obviously, before you do your final wave, make sure not to accidentally use it again. It's probably the most key for Buster, because Buster is the one that will be getting his skills back in time to use it for the last chance there. Make sure that on turn 3, when you get all your skills back, that you're not accidentally changing to your old man form, basically. Yeah. See right here, since both of them, one is on the cooldown of 5, the other one's on cooldown of 5. I get in skill 2, it's even as early as turn 2 if you're using the Buster form. It's easy to accidentally click this and then go, oh damn it, well, my entire game plan was built around that. I just have to wait a bit to actually turn back. And then finally, we have Tez. Tez is an amazing support. He has amazing support capabilities. He gives himself 50% NP and then gives the allies 30%. He can increase damage against the Divine and Super Large for himself. He gives any ally with guts 40% attack, and that includes him when you give him guts. He can also increase the values of master skills, which is maybe the funniest skill he has, because this is also the one that I see people complain about the most, because the game doesn't tell you what it means. It just says increase the value of master skills by 10% while stuff is on the field. But when you actually have them in game, it just says increase some master skills to some degree. Doesn't actually tell you the value of anything. The only complaint I've ever had about him is that at MP1, he can maybe lack a little bit of damage, but a lot of that I think just comes down to the fact that he is an assassin, and assassins naturally deal less damage. It's just kind of something built into the class itself. It's like a 0.9% modifier or something like that last I looked at it. So having more additional NP copies would be ideal, which is why I'm going for potentially either another copy of Tez or my first copy of Bartolomeos, or for Rasputin. I'll be pretty happy with any one of them. And then we'll get on to the next banner, which is Single Target Buster Men, which features our Archer Moriarty, King Asan, Kin Toki, and Hijikata. Archer Moriarty can also turn everyone in your party evil, letting them have 40% attack on his skill 3 for the cost of 10 crit stars when you get 20 from the first skill. This took a good amount of buffs to get there, but it eventually did get there. The first skill, you activate that, get 20 crit stars to play with. You make it so your entire party is evil, and then finally this is fully active, and every single evil alignment dude on your team has 40%. And of course, if you're only using evil regardless, that's just an easy free 40% to everyone. He can deal a good amount of damage as well, so I think he's a pretty good unit. King Asan is the next unit we talk about. Is a cool fucking skeleton. But if you need to hear more than that about him, he's also just like, he's an assassination-focused Buster Gorilla. If he wants someone dead, then they're basically dead. Like, he has 3 Buster cards. He has a way to increase his Buster ability here. He has a Guts that when it triggers, it brings him back with 20%, with 50% Buster damage for the turn, while also charging his NP gauge by 20%. He has a lot of debuff resistance. He's able to increase his debuff resistance for 3 turns to be 100%, which can come in handy for a lot of different challenge quests. He can reduce the enemy instant kill resistance if they think that they have any, and then if you still don't really need it for that, then you can also increase his Buster capabilities by 50% and give him an NP of 30%. I believe this strengthening comes in during the FGO Arcade collaboration, so we already got it, which is good. This is the problem when you don't have the unit, as much as I would love to have King Asan to remember at the time. Anyway, he also has instant kill immunity, because you can't kill him with instant kill. He can increase his own charm debuff resistance by 100%, so he's very hard to charm. And you can also just randomly do this. He has a 5% chance to instant kill anyone with one of his regular normal attacks. And then his Noble Phantasm is very simple. It's Azrael. It also has a chance to instant kill enemies on it. Awesome, awesome assassination gorilla, beast mode, awesome dude to look at. Next, in terms of gorillas, we have the golden gorilla, Kintoki. He has been basically the same since launch. Do you need to deal a fuck ton of damage with someone? Then you call up Kintoki, and Kintoki will literally do that. He has 50% attack for exactly a single turn. He charges his NP by 50%. He can increase his offensive debuff resistance, which means that they can't remove his debuff resistance for 3 turns. Not that it matters, because his buffs only last a single turn. Not counting the ones that you get from either Merlin or Koyanskaya, obviously. And he can recover his HP. He has no defensive capabilities. He is here to kill the opponent. And if he doesn't kill him, then hopefully maybe he stunned them. But if they're able to hit him, then they are able to hit him. There's nothing you can do about that. He can ignore defense. There's just no way for them to be able to stop what's coming to them when it comes to the Golden Spark. And that is Kintoki. He has been like that for as long as I can remember. He continues to be like that, and he does a damn good job at it. Then we have Hijikata, who works with a gorilla named Kondo, but isn't actually a Buster Gorilla himself. He does not meet the conditions, which is having 3 Buster cards. He has 2 Buster cards. He wants to be really low on HP, the lowest that you can get to deal the most amount of damage with his Noble Phantasm, which means that he's not a practical unit in any sense of the way. You want him to take damage as much as you can, but because he's a Buster, even with a Guts to him, he gets hit with a Guts 1 time, he lives with 1 HP, and then if the enemy still chooses to touch him in any kind of capacity, he dies. And then he launches his NP, and then he can do a lot of damage for that 1 turn, but then he's likely dead on the clapback if he did not already have Guts. So, very, very silly unit to use, but damn is he a lot of fun to use. The 1 challenge class that we did with him, with me and my brother did with him, was a ton of fun. So he's definitely a one where I think I'm a big fan of him, but obviously not practical in any kind of sense of the word. Next banner, we have single target Buster and support. Buster. They're both of them. We got Sigurd, Telemeos, and Constantine. Already talked about how good Telemeos is. I don't like Sigurd all that much. He's a Dragon Slayer, but one whose buffs kind of only last for 3 hits and then they go away. I don't know why they made him this way and why they've buffed him the amount of times that they have, which is I think twice, and they have never fixed this part of him. This Buster performance thing, it lasted for 1 turn, and then they said, you're right, 3 times over 3 turns. makes no sense to me. Not a big fan of it, but obviously if you are, more power to you, but it's enough to make me not want to summon on this banner as the potential chance of getting them. Constantine is also a big brick wall for Rome. His interlude that we're going to be getting, I believe, this year, 2026, will make it so that his NP will be able to give invincibility and buster performance to the others, because currently it only gives it to himself, which is not... It's funny that this should have been the way it was worked beforehand. So in this current form is not the best ideal form of him, but after that interlude, he becomes really good. So yeah, this one, if you were a person who was more cool with Sigurd and Constantine while you're going for Ptolemaeus over Tezid Rasputin for whatever reason, then yeah, you can choose this banner over it. It's still a 1 in 3. It's still a 33% chance. It's still really good for getting Ptolemaeus. It just kind of depends on how you feel about these two compared to these two at that point. Then we're so close to the end. We have AOE Buster 1, a 1 in 5 chance or a 20% chance of getting Arthur, Gilgamesh, Ivan the Terrible, Iskandar, and then Amakusa Shiro. Arthur actually can't currently loop in NA, which is, I guess, a fun little fact about him. During the download celebration that we're getting in October, though, he finally gets this strengthening that changes his NP charger, which is currently 20% into 30%, which is the thing that you actually need to do the basic Koyanskaya loop, which is 2 Koyanskayas and an Oberon. You need at least 30% NP to be able to do it that way. Which is great. And then that turns him to really good. Once he finally has that buff, I can kind of confidently say, yeah, he's pretty good. Gilgamesh is Gilgamesh, and people would go for him even if he was the worst unit in the game. But thankfully, these people are also fans of Gilgamesh, and they did not do that. He's actually very good. Then we have Ivan the Terrible, which I think is like a funny aside. His first skill gives bonus damage to lawful alignment and chaotic alignment, but there's no way for you to fight someone naturally who has lawful and chaotic. You have to actually give them the alignment of lawful or chaotic, and then Ivan can kind of do his full power of them. It's not really a deal breaker for him. I still think he's good. I also just think it's funny that he has the power to do bonus damage over both of them while never actually running into someone naturally who is lawful chaotic. Also, his voice actor is, of course, the same one as Kiryu Kazuma, so that's an obvious bonus point for anyone that shares it. We have Iskandar, which finally, during our 9th anniversary, we will get the buff of him that lets him loop. He cannot currently loop because when he launched the game, he did not have an MP gauge charger. He now finally has one, which means he can now finally fucking loop, which makes me so happy because I love Iskandar. He is one of my favorites. I can't wait to finally go full crazy with him. I have so many rider buffs to take advantage of it. And then finally, the last person on the list is Amakusa, which I keep fighting the inner spirit inside me to call him Umakusa. Like I'm saying Amakusa. I think I keep accidentally saying I've said his name wrong for going on maybe 8 years, and no one's tried to correct me on it till I finally realized what I was doing. Anyway, he's kind of aged really bad, and he needs more buffs, but he's also in an awkward position where every single one of his skills has been buffed, including his Noble Phantasm, so whatever they decide to buff will be an additional buff on top of all the other buffs, and I don't know if they're going to be doing that. Maybe they will. It feels like at this point it would just be easier for them to release a new version of Amakusa, but we'll see what they end up deciding for it. It also is going to be really funny when someone points out, hey, you're still saying his name wrong. But fuck all that, because we finally reached it to the last banner that we have to talk about, which is AOE Buster Men 2. A 1 in 4 chance or a 20% chance of getting Romulus, Takeda Shingen, Arjuna Alter, or Oberon. Romulus I've already talked about. Takeda doesn't really excel in anything, but he also isn't really super bad in any way, so he's just kind of overall good, I feel. Arjuna Alter is very simple in what he wants to do, and what he wants to do is to kill things and wants you to point things for him to kill things. I've read that a lot of people tend to have trouble with the harder grind nodes with him because he doesn't deal enough he doesn't really deal any bonus damage in his stuff. So at lower NP levels, he might need those crit cards to kind of finish the job for the huge HP enemies, which I did mention. Later on, we are going to have a way to make that a little bit easier for him, but for the time being, he currently does not have that. And then finally, Oberon is the best generic support in the entire game. If you're going for Koyan of Light, typically the next unit you try to get is either a Buster DPS or it's actually Oberon. His skill 3 has a high risk, high reward. It effectively kills the unit. Like, you can read a lot of the stuff on it because it reads like a lot of words. It gives him the ability to... He puts them into eternal sleep, which is like saying, oh yeah, they're sleeping, but it's fine. Huge risk because it destroys your Buster, but if it's the last turn of the current round that you're on, there's no more fight if the enemy is dead. So you can use it in that way, and it negates a lot of the negative effects towards it. He can be used with non-Buster units because even though a lot of the power here looks like it would go to 50% Buster, this NP damage up boost of 100% is still good enough to also give those units a buttload of power. He's able to give 70% to NP for his first skill and his second skill. The one thing you have to watch out for, the second skill, is that it also will reduce their NP gauge by 20%. But if you're using a Buster unit, that never matters. Or if it's, again, the final turn, it never matters. Or if you're using, even funny enough, a Arts unit who's able to get enough stuff back, they can also likely take the 20% minus if it comes down to it. So yeah, it's pretty easy just kind of looking. You could even, like, if you wanted to, Black Grail farm with him, which I've done in the past, which is pretty funny to do, but not really necessary with it. But it's something you can do if you're ever fighting someone who's able to take more bonus damage against Pretender and you're fighting someone with a lawful alignment. You can bring them in, even at MP level 1 with the Black Grail, and kind of get stuff done. But yeah, you can easily kind of see why anyone would want him. And this banner is a really nice banner, actually. Because even if you miss on Oberon, you have a chance of getting Arjuna Altar. If you miss on Arjuna Altar and Oberon, to get a Shingen isn't bad. And I also don't think Queerness is bad, so obviously maybe it comes down to player preference at that point. But I think both are still positive in what they can kind of accomplish. So, not a bad banner to summon on. And finally, that's it, everyone. Yeah, we finally reached it to the end. If you've made it all the way here to the end, I thank you very much for listening to everything. I really hope it was able to help you in some kind of way. If it wasn't able to help you, then I guess leave a comment down below and see if I can help you even more. I tried to give a kind of direction at the beginning to say, like, hey, these are the actual ones that I think are just kind of generically good, and you can go for these and you can probably be pretty safe about it and everything. But talking about a lot of these also drains all my energy. I think you can probably hear my energy slowly leave me as the video goes on longer. But that's it, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. It might even be the 15-minute long GSSR video for tomorrow is the one I'll see you on. But I wish you all the best of luck on your GSSRs. Good luck trying to decide between them. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Alright, peace out. Bye-bye. Go home.
You're all free now!